welcome to Quarantimes. I'm your host, Reema Gupta, and through this series of videos, I plan to bring you voices of women from different walks of life. I'm connecting with entrepreneurs, NGO leaders, women professionals, healthcare workers, educationists, and women in the unorganized sector to understand their perspective on the lockdown situation and the challenges and opportunities it presents for them. Today with me, I have Ms. Uma Rao, Vice President, Human Resources at Ashok Leyland Limited. Uma, welcome to the show.
Hi, Reema. Thank you for having me over.
We're looking forward to sharing your perspective. As you know, we are living in unprecedented times. COVID-19 has really created a huge tsunami for us from an economic perspective as well as public health perspective. In your opinion, what sectors are going to be hardest hit due to lockdown? Do you feel it's only short term, or do you believe there's going to be a long-term impact? Specifically focusing on automobile sector where you come from, could you tell us what the impact of this lockdown is going to be on automobile sector? And given that you deal with commercial vehicles, is the impact less when compared to consumer vehicles?
Yeah, Reema, I think this situation brings a lot of things to the fore, which were unanticipated to this extent. I think definitely the manufacturing sector will have an impact because we can't do the work from home most of the times. And also the way the lockdown has been imposed across the country for very right reasons, it is going to impact the movement of goods and production of goods because we depend on raw materials to produce, and most manufacturing companies would have that. Pharmaceutical sector and allied sectors will probably be less impacted because they have to do what is required in these times to help the whole world, and therefore that is going to be business as usual, I suppose, but with a lot of restrictions because space, distancing, how to man people in the factories. You can't run it at the same speed that you did it before, so all those things. Now, as far as the manufacturing industry is concerned, I think they're running with the essential services at this moment. Those who have these boilers and other things which require people to be present, they're running it, but they're unable to run the other operations. So definitely it's going to be an impact. And the impact is going to be monetary, clearly, straight away, because if you don't produce, you can't sell, and if you don't sell, the cash flows don't happen. So it's a difficult time for most of these firms. I think it will also impact the service sector badly because a lot of hotels and restaurants and all these things have closed. The delivery boys who are actually doing so well, the companies which were doing the doorstep delivery, they're also going to be impacted heavily as far as I see. IT may be slightly less impacted because they have the ability to work from anywhere because of the servers that we have. But I believe that even that sector will be impacted slightly because at the lower levels, people are not equipped to handle independent roles, and a large number of people in most organizations are at the lower levels because of cost efficiency. So I think overall it's going to hit everybody, retail also, as I said. But I think there's an opportunity in this, so we'll have to see how to turn it positive for ourselves. Now, in terms of commercial vehicles, I think certainly we are no different. We're going to be impacted. Credit, liquidity, all this is going to be a real problem for us. We'll have to end up borrowing, and borrowing won't be that easy because your situation is not very conducive for people to borrow at this stage. So household spending is going to come down, farm production is going to come down, so transportation is going to be hit, and that's where we get into the picture. Now, the added complexity for a company like ours and most commercial vehicles is because we have to move to the BS6 regime. Effective April, we were supposed to move to the BS6 regime. So all the organizations have gotten ready to make that production happen, and BS4 has stopped, kind of, So we have to move to this new regime. And the fact of the matter is, at this moment, customers are wondering about whether purchasing at this stage is a good idea because they need cash for that and things like that. So I think what has happened is the the resale vehicle market seems to have picked up more at this stage than the new vehicles. And so that is something which many companies may not have been prepared for. But that's definitely an opportunity at this stage to get into. Now, to your question with the passenger vehicle or commercial vehicle, which is more impacted, I think both are impacted pretty badly, as much as I can understand. Because I don't think anybody is going and purchasing cars at this moment either, because you can't go out. It's like any other household product. But your grocery can come to your doorstep. Your car probably can't come to the doorstep to be delivered. So I think there's a fundamental difference between the two. And in that, I think commercial vehicle is hit more because the capacity load of their vehicles and the kind of business that they are into is more capital intensive, and therefore hits us a little more, I guess. On top of that, companies which are standalone on commercial vehicle will feel the heat more compared to companies which handle both passenger and commercial, where the possibility of hedging exists to some extent. And in our case, we made another innovation. We went in for a new way of working, which is the modular business program. So it's kind of very customer centric to allow him or her to pick up vehicles the way they want within the choices that are available in the menu card. I think that also has added complexity for us, and we'll have to wait and see how this turns around.
Sure. No, but I think very important points that you made. I specifically wanted to explore a little bit more from the customer perspective that you just mentioned, right? So I think it's great that the companies are looking at innovating, but commercial side, because it's generally small businesses or businesses that are purchasing commercial vehicles, maybe they'll be more hit because of the cash crunch and liquidity crunch that a business faces. So maybe could you talk a little bit more about what you are hearing from your customers because of this lockdown situation? As you said, maybe they are using existing capacity, but because right now, again, the whole economic activity has slowed down, right? So they probably have surplus capacity. And could you talk a bit more about the innovations that you're driving from pooling perspective and considering different business models in this area?
Yeah. No, I think it's a great question because, as we say, every adversity comes with an opportunity. And what we are doing as an organization, and perhaps others are as well, is connecting more and more with our customers at this stage. We had started a little before the whole drive of engaging with financiers to ensure that even before the COVID, things were not looking all that great, if you remember. So we were already engaging with the financiers to see what kind of financing options could be given to the customers. Okay, we're continuing that drive now and making sure that they have the capacity to operate and do things their business requires. So the biggest takeaway for this time in the last so many days that we are in this situation has been the way we have engaged with our customers in terms of educating them about BS6, informing them about the whole value to business by going into this mode. Because you see, technically, the individual can continue with the BS4 vehicles. There's nothing that stops them. And the fuel is also enabled such that it can be used both in BS4 and BS6. So technically, there's no reason for them to look at something new and continue their business. So we've been taking this time to educate them because I think we've got a great technology. In technological terms, it talks about mid-knock strategy, which is fantastic because you're doing a lot of things inside the vehicle and not outside, and therefore not polluting and things like that. In a very layman language, if I were to explain that. And that is something which is of great value to the business. And this is something that we are trying to explain to them. We're also working very closely with them on the various CSR projects at this time, where a lot of them have also come up stating that they would like to do something, and we've partnered with them to do a lot of these things. We are helping their drivers with food and other facilities, resting facilities within our plants, which are not functional at this moment. And therefore, their people are taken care of, and that burden is off their back. So all our plants are actually, they've become like kitchens, community kitchens, and we're supplying food to a lot of people, thousands of people who are going. So I think that is something which they appreciate a lot, that we are standing up with them in many ways through this crisis. And we keep talking to them. So everybody has a target in the sales to talk to X number of customers every single day, so that the touch point is maintained over there. But most important among all these things is getting the help from financiers to be able to get them some money. I think that is what they need the most. And that's how we've actually started working with transporters and other customers. Our DTC operations, for example, in Delhi, because it's a government run, is running 24/7. So there, we are helping by fumigating the place and, doing those cleanliness procedures, which, they can't afford, but I think we are able to get that over there. So overall, I think support is in terms of money, support is in terms of infrastructure for them, and support is in terms of helping them run their business. That's how we're looking at it.
No, that's a great strategy. I think I hear a lot from businesses that they're taking this time to connect with their customers and reach out to as many as possible, make sure that they know you are there for them, and building that relationship, right? So it's very, very important. And it's great to hear that you've converted some of your factories into this community space for your drivers. I think that's phenomenal. Hats off to you. I really applaud all the corporates who are really thinking in a very completely different way. And it's not just about producing more, but trying to say, how can we help in these times? So great effort. Maybe building on this this shows corporate leadership. And from a corporate leadership perspective, maybe we can talk a little bit more about what you're doing from your employees' perspective, right? So there is a lot of anxiety in people. We've seen a lot of migrant laborers, right, issues coming up, daily wage earners. And also, although it has not bubbled up right now, people are concerned about their jobs, and there is a slowdown in the economy. I mean, we cannot just disregard that. So could you talk a little bit more from a strategic perspective? How is your corporate thinking about it and planning for the future?
Yeah. I think in our organization, we have always laid a lot of emphasis on the human capabilities and the human side of the organization. And that translates in the way we deal with our human resource policies, procedures, practices, as well as the way we do CSR in the community. It is regarded as one of the most impacting organizations when it comes to these things. So I think that also got us the Aon Best Employer Award last year. So certainly that is a key thing for us in terms of how we deal with our people. So I think that there are going to be different strategies from now on. It's not going to be one thing, as I see. The first thing, currently, because there is a lot of uncertainty in the environment, I think we consider it as the most important task for us in HR to safeguard the employee welfare and to communicate and engage with the employees very, very rampantly across the organization. So what we've done is we work on Microsoft Teams, and all teams are connected together. They have a meeting every single day. I do it for my team every day, morning and evening, and likewise everybody. We've taken on ourselves the agenda of engagement, and we've broken engagement into three types. One is the whole thing on learning and development, using this time for that, learning. Second piece is on mental wellness, because there's a lot of issues that are coming up because of that in society at large, and we will not be anything different. The third one is about engagement, employee engagement, as well as family engagement. And there's also the time where we are reaching out to the family to say that, we're here and we care because we understand what you're going through. So I think these are the three pillars of engagement that they have taken up across the organization. Every single day, the HR fraternity talks to all the teams. So I think we've kept a very tight communication link. Our managing director sends his videos across every week to people. Mr. Vipin Sondi checking on how this is. And so I think every leader has stepped up very effectively. So that's the first stage. Down the line, and we are still formulating, but down the line, we have to think about how to resume operations. It's not going to be like the day the lockdown is lifted, everybody will run to the office or the factory. It won't happen. So strategizing about how we're going to do that, starting with the very skeleton staff, then increasing it gradually and things like that. One thing that people, non-believers in manufacturing sector about work from home have now possibly converted themselves at least 50%, if not 100. And for me as a HR professional, that's a big victory. And in the long term, I would see that, we have to look at the way we are organized, because every paradigm is going to change after this. Whether you need offices to work in, whether you need everybody to come all the time, whether part-time employments are going to be important, whether the freelancing gig economy kind of activities have to be done. I think we're really thinking about everything. So this organization that is today, Rima, it's not going to remain like this. I can tell you for a fact, it's going to go through a 360-degree change as I see it. But it's not just about the cost. It's about how you utilize people more meaningfully. That's from the organization's point of view. And from the person's point of view, the employee's point of view, many employees reach out to me saying that they're really thinking about how they're leading their life, whether this is the life that they want to lead. You see, it's going to be two sides. Both sides are going to think about it as we go forward. So it's actually, as a social scientist, I feel very excited with the prospect of what's going to happen in the society, even though we're going through the toughest and worst times at this moment. So that's really my take on people.
I totally agree with you. I think it has put a little bit of a reset button, right, in each of us to think a little bit more from a personal perspective, as well as you said, from a corporate leadership perspective. And the world has definitely changed. Now it's up to us that in what direction that change moves forward as we come out of it. And I hope this time of election has given us to move in the right direction. One of my friends was saying, given this lockdown, I think we should have this lockdown every year for 2 weeks. It gives us a chance.
Rima, just a point there. I was working in TCS Brazil. And every year end, like most Western countries, they lock down for 15 days.
Oh, okay.
And then they come back. It's not like a 2-day or a 3-day holiday. It's 15 days. The office is shut. You have time to be with your family, relax, do whatever you want, and then you come back. And I don't think the productivity or anything has fallen because of that. It's just about how much importance you give to certain things in your life.
Sure. I totally agree with what I would hope that we don't just get back on the treadmill. It's not like the economy has gone into a coma and it wakes up suddenly and we just start from where we left off. It's very important that we make the right changes. And I'm glad that the leadership of corporates is really thinking about it, and it's heartening to hear from those perspectives. So maybe one more question I had was with respect to, right, we are going through a churn in the economy. Everyone is trying to help. It's great to see the human element coming out in all of us. My question is, from the government perspective, right? We see Indian government as very proactive. They've taken, the right decision in terms of the lockdown proactively when other countries were not even decided. They immediately announced some packages, some subsidies and schemes for people from the lower socioeconomic strata. They are a little bit more at ease. But the MSME sector has been hugely affected. You yourself mentioned that, and that's the sector for which the cash flows are very, very important. And because of this whole economic churn, that has been the hardest hit. So could you maybe talk a little bit more about the MSME sector? I'm sure some of them are your suppliers as well as some of them are your customers. So are you putting together some credit lines, some new things to help them out? The other thing is, from the government perspective, are there things that you as industry leader would like to see more of, and where can you guys collaborate to make sure that the economy comes back on track in as short time as possible?
Yeah. So I think clearly automotive leads the way when it comes to a lot of organizations. And today we do have an issue inside our own shop. But I think we've always been empathetic with our suppliers and ancillary units which work very closely with us. That's where I was talking about the fact that we wanted to talk a lot more to the financiers, and we have been able to do that before this crisis hit, saying in what ways can we help our dealers, etc. We're also looking at the same thing for some of our suppliers because they are going through this crunch. At this moment, since there is no work, they don't have to procure materials, but to even let them be with their staff and just continue, I think is a challenge, even if they don't do any production. And that's where we've stepped in. As I said, a lot of our CSR activities are happening across many such things. So the daily issues of survival, I think people are kind of taken care of in many pockets. We've also been engaging with them heavily in terms of training their people at this time, putting them through the learning pieces, etc., so that their people are not running away from there. And these are all free. We don't charge anything from them, apart from the basics of food and stuff like that. We also don't charge them anything. So we're trying our best to ensure that their payments are not locked with us and that they're not suffering at this time. So those are small little things, but I think they matter. Taking care of the various factories that they run in terms of helping them with clearances of any raw material issues that they have and things like that. So I think in a way we're kind of supporting, but it can only go that far. I have to tell you this, Rima, that we've had no issues from the union at all in all these days. Not a single person has come forward to say that we've been mistreated, ill-treated, not been fair with, etc., etc. And we've also taken care of our contractors thanks to the government policy. Possibly we didn't need it as much as maybe some other players would because of various pressures that they go through, but we didn't have to go through. So that was a welcome thing that came from the government, and it just ties in with our philosophy. The second thing is government has allowed for movement of vehicles now cross-border to deliver supplies, which I think has been a big thing for us because our people are able to move. If the wheels don't move, the country doesn't move. So there's a need for the government to look at the core segments like automotive and have a slew of benefits rolled out for them so that they are able to stand up. And when they stand up, a lot of ancillary industries stand up. So that is something we are expecting. But so far, I think they've been very proactive in whatever they have done.
No, that's great. And I agree with you. I think the movement of commercial vehicles, right? So I saw this goods train which had the Ashok Leyland trucks on it, and the train was transporting the drivers as well as, and that gives a huge confidence to us as citizens, right? That, hey, things are going to be back on track. You trust the government, there's not going to be a shortage of things. Yeah. Work from home has suddenly become the new imperative, leading us to reconsider which kinds of job can be done remotely and which require human proximity. Some of this shift can also be enabled through technological innovation. As an HR leader, tell us about some of the significant mind shifts that have happened in our thinking about workforce and workforce productivity. What areas will require a completely new perspective in the way we work as we move beyond the COVID-19? How can we ensure gender parity as we design new work habits?
Right. Yeah. So I think it's been a great opportunity, Rima, as I mentioned earlier, for us to relook at the way we're working and to build a resilient organization which is optimal and focused towards what is required in the future. I think this has come, I would say, in a blessing in disguise for us, because it really helps us to look at things very differently. At earlier times, an organization in the manufacturing space could never think of a work from home, right? Today, I'm occupied morning till night in meetings because we are meeting for something or the other all the time, and we're moving the agenda. That is great. I mean, the unthinkable has happened. Of course, some people are still struggling with it. Let me be honest. Seeing face to face versus a medium to look at will make certain people feel uncomfortable. right? And on the lighter side, a lot of men don't want to do this working from home because, perhaps the family gets to know how much they work or they don't work, as the case may be. But that's really on a lighter note. I think they just want to get out and feel liberated having stepped out of the house.
Yeah.
So I think all those reasons have to be really examined now for people to go to a workplace, so to speak. If I look at my sales organization, we've got so many offices across the country and we pay a lot of money in terms of rental. And most of the times, sales guys are on the field. They don't even sit in the office. So it's been a very good question in front of all of us to say, why do we need so many? So what do we need offices for? That's a question that has come on the table. Whether that means scrapping all the offices or not, I'm not sure at this moment. But I think the question has been asked saying, what's the value of having it? Because it's a huge cost for us. And it's not of much use because sales guys are not expected to sit in the office. Similarly, people who do service, they have to be on the field all the time. So why do they need to get to an office? So those kind of things. We're also looking at clubbing certain offices together, which are at close proximity to each other so that there is more optimization of what we have. So suddenly we're looking at an aspect that we never thought is a point of discussion at all. One other point is, we always have a lot of fears about the way the privacy and security and all these are handled. We have so many rules around it. But with this pandemic, what has happened is it has also forced people to look at how to resolve these issues for making it conducive to work from home. For example, our product development engineers are dealing with highly sensitive issues and they work on certain proprietary softwares. But with this work from home that was announced, all of these people were enabled in their systems certain accesses and rights, which otherwise was not possible to do in the normal environment. So I think what this pandemic situation has done is forced people to look at everything in a very different way, including the highly confidential functions, so to speak, of product development and things like that. The individual has not changed. Nothing about his work has changed, but it's a mindset of people that has changed to enable this individual to be more trusted and allowed to do what he or she is supposed to be doing. I think this has been a breakthrough of sorts for us. Now, in terms of policy, certainly we envisage that this work from home should continue. May not be for all the days, but it certainly should happen for a few days so that people are able to get their priorities right, put the reset button into their lives every week so that they come back rejuvenated. I think that's going to be very important. Certain functions, and this is what is the work in progress right now, we're wondering whether certain functions need not get to the office at all. And some of those functions also have a lot of women in them. For example, IT, or for example, some areas of finance, which really doesn't require someone to be sitting there all the time, or some areas of company secretaryship, some HR, corporate functions by and large, if we can look at them, because real estate is expensive too, and commuting is crazy in cities. So we'll probably have to look at these aspects, and that's what we're working towards now, saying that, why does everybody need to sit in the office? We can work. Yeah. The discussion till then was what rent to pay, can we negotiate for a better rent? And from there, we're questioning whether we need it at all. So I think that's a good question. The solution of Microsoft Teams that we've adopted has come in very handy, I would say. We have fantastic teams happening through it, like Zoom. This is another facility, and it can actually take about 200 people together. So people are able to run their town halls, communication exercises, apart from their small meetings. And the best is, when you look at each other, it almost feels like you're working together. So I think technology is going to play a much bigger role. At least I have decided that I will continue with my virtual meetings as we go forward. And like me, there are many other leaders who want to do that because they're so bewildered to see all the people in the frame, which they would never do physically. So I think, women are going to benefit from this arrangement, as I see very clearly. And more of them have now a business reason to be able to work from home rather than just an emotional reason for working from home, because productivity has not dropped. deliverables have not dropped. If anything, people are more busy than ever before. So I think I just see that it's all good news at the end for us, as we do. And I was, we had presented a corporate plan to the board a couple of weeks back. And one of the things when I was researching, I found that 25% of the world's gig economy workforce, which works online, is from India, of which about 60% of them are women, right? So I clearly see an opportunity for women to come forward. The caveat, though, is it will not happen just because it has to happen. It will happen because the women have to carry certain capabilities which help them to stand out from the others. And then you will be the most sought out person. And you can sit at home and be the queen of your life, literally, if I may say so. So I see a huge opportunity, clearly.
No, that's great to hear. I concur with you. I think technology provides a great opportunity. I do think that we will have to learn to manage and prioritize because we are considered multitaskers. And I think that's the adjustment that we'll have to make on our side. And then
Absolutely.
the wide open space.
As an example, I have to tell you that I have learned to cook in 15 minutes because that's the time I get between two meetings. So I think everything forces you to do things differently. My own way of living has changed.
Oh, awesome. So on that note, we conclude this conversation. I think we look forward to a greener planet and a more sustainable, healthy planet, as well as a more sustainable lifestyle for each of us. So thank you so much for joining us in this conversation, and we hope to continue this post the COVID as well. And all the best to you.
Thank you so much, Reema. Thank you so much. All the best to you. Stay safe and stay healthy.